Okay, before I get deep into this video, I want to let everybody know that these moon videos, all of them are going to have a survey at the end of them. Pretty much near the end of them, it's going to pop up an icon that you can click on and take the survey. It's very brief. It's not mandatory, however, you're not obligated to do it. However, the survey is going to be on human behavior, all right? So we're adding surveys and things of that nature, research into the channel, into the community. So you can participate in that if you like. I'd appreciate it if you do. All right, now. Okay, let's get into it. Oh man, look at my head. Moon and Gemini, when you enter their household, right, what you'll see is they'll have different activities taking place. It will be very active when you come there. So visitors, you know, they like visitors at their home. Like the way that their home is set up with these different projects going on in different sections, that's how the brain works. Moon and Gemini people are very quick-minded, very quick-witted. It comes from being restless. Like they get bored easily. When they talk to you, they understand themselves and people through talking, so they like rationalize the words in order to understand how they feel. Now, they're not the most emotional people. However, you will notice their emotions when they're moving through life. See, for Moon and Gemini people, change is the only constant. So everything is quick. Let's go, let's go. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let's do it. And then it's done. What happens when they're moving through life like that is they are unpredictable. You do not know the next mood of a Moon and Gemini person. So, you know, they may switch topics at the drop of a hat, and this is why they get the rap for being like two-faced or something like that, because it's like they'll forget totally about or ignore whatever it was that you were just speaking about and like jump into something else. And they may even get an attitude if you want to talk about the other thing that you were once talking about. Although they have like a nervous situation with themselves by nature, when tension starts to rise while they are speaking to people or they're in dialogue, they actually get better at speaking. Like they take on that type of pressure. So it's like a more powerful thing for them to experience something of that matter. I've heard the saying, talk is cheap before, right? Not so when Moon and Gemini people is in the first house. They attack this singular energy. They attack this with their mouthpiece. They will talk their way into something and they will talk their way out of something. The power of persuasion comes from the rolling of the tongue, how people utilize their words. For the people who say action speaks louder than words, let's take this phrase, right, and say, look, Moon and Gemini people will flip it around and say, well, yeah, action speaks louder than words. When you do something that is dumb, and they may actually use that word in a kind of high-strung tone, and you say, you know, when people behave and they're dumb when they do so, their action speaks louder than their words. So this is how Moon and Gemini people approach life. And when they're in the heat of the moment, they have the power and the potential to persuade people to believe the things that they say. Because if they have the smallest increment of evidence backing up what they're saying, then you're going to have a large crowd of people who believe what they're saying. Moon and Gemini people inside of the second house. Here, they have like a disregard for the second house energy. The only thing that they really want to know when it comes to the second house is where's their money? Like, how's the money going? Do we have some? All right, good. Then the plan, that's the plan. We're doing great. That's all that they know. Because Moon and Gemini people are so optimistic in thinking. They're like, okay, I said this, you did that. Because, you know, second house dealing with the plan and like, oh, did you do that? Oh, so that's because of what I said, right? So we're good. There's nothing to worry about. Let's keep it moving. So they're not going to really be there for the implementation of the whole plan. They're not going to be there to keep coaching and advising through the plan. They're going to feel whatever they said in the first house is law now. Okay, Moon and Gemini people in the third house, they're at home here, right? This is the house of communication. This is where they feel most powerful, and they are really most powerful. You will see them reaching out to people who they are most closest to at this time, and probably in their immediate vicinity, like in their neighborhood. And their communications will be a balance between business and personal relationships. You know, it may be short-lived, and it may be a high volume of different conversations going on. And they'll participate with community events in some type of way. If not actually participating, then they will be speaking highly about things that are inside of their neighborhood, particularly those that they have some type of involvement with. They are not the easiest people to live with. Now, don't get me wrong, they are very fun and fun-loving, especially when it comes to their family members. They're more like children though when it comes to even their kids. Like they'll play with their kids like they're their friends. Like they have this real play-like energy, which makes them great parents in some sort of aspect. However, when it comes to domestic matters, they probably do better with a more stern partner, because there will be some type of discipline needed inside of the house that they may look over and say, it's not such a thing to worry about. Or there may be some type of conflict when they do have a more stern significant other in the house. So you may see some departure. If they leave as a measure of how that has taken place, then you understand why. They actually do pretty well inside of the fifth house. And when I say they do pretty well, I mean they give off this persona that embodies something that says, okay, this is really them, you know, because it's really their time to be vocal about the things that they strongly believe about. So you will see them being sometimes overtly expressive. You can also see like expenditures get extra heavy when it comes around this time. Like Moon and Gemini people, they really have the ability to acquire finances anyway. So, you know, this energy, you know, they'll do things like hedge on the stock market, or like, you know, take high risks and invest large amounts of money into something sometimes without even a second thought about doing so. Okay, Moon and Gemini people inside of the sixth house. Now, this can go a lot of different ways because, you know, this deals with the work environment, this deals with health. I'm going to speak about the work environment first. They have the tendency to, like, you know, talk their way in through things in this environment. So you may see Moon and Gemini people like getting away with not doing as much work as everyone else inside of the work environment. And it's because they're talking in a manner that makes them seem like they're instructing people well on how to do whatever it is that the task needs to be done, instead of actually doing it themselves. So it really depends on what type of field of work they're in. If they're in communication or something that deals with that, fantastic. Or something like merchandising or sales or something like that, that's great, because they get to do customer service, they talk their way through things. However, if there's something laborious, you can see there's be some type of turmoil or conflict that comes out of this work environment. This house really comes down to what their ascendant is, because it's going to determine the way that they filter information and how they go about speaking to people. And it's part of communication is how your body communicates with your mind as well. So, you know, just think about the different signs and how they pertain to health, and then you can basically come up with your own reading of how Moon and Gemini people will respond. This is a unique spot for them, if you ask me, because it's like when they're communicating here, they like to do business deals, right? So the way that they come across, however, may seem like they're up to something. And it's because, you know, 9 times out of 10, before they got finished speaking to you, they probably were speaking to somebody else. And while they're speaking to you, they already have it in their mind who they're going to call next. So what they're doing is they're masterminding before they started making all of these connections, and they started saying to themselves, look, I'm going to grab this from here, grab this from here, grab this from here, grab this from here, and I'm going to consolidate into one, and I'm going to be a genius for it, and they're all going to remember me for doing this, and I will be indispensable. They can sometimes think that they want a significant other to domesticate, like, because that's what it is in the traditional sense. However, they probably would do better when they are linked with a thinker like themselves, and realize that a union such as marriage is something that should be thought about from a theoretical standpoint, and, you know, implemented as a marriage. Like if you hear marriages are based on, you know, finances, and it's really a deal, it's an agreement, and who better to negotiate agreements and deals than Moon and Gemini people. Now, Moon and Gemini people inside of the 8th house, this is a unique house for them, according to my studies, because this will be the decider of, you know, will they be able to follow through with the things that they've began in the angular houses. With other people's money being here, taxes, legal agreements, and, you know, even their partner's earning potential being here, whether that's business or personal. You know, these are where the challenges come into, where you can face pitfalls, or you can face adversities that may make you question yourself, Moon and Gemini people. And when you have the adversity to pull through matters when they get inside of the 8th house, it's great for you. You know, the psychoanalysis energy is there for you to go in depth to find out who you truly are. Like, you will stumble across characteristics that you probably did not define in yourself before. So every time the moon circles around the 8th house, you get to learn something new and in depth about yourself when you thought you were just this air energy pertaining to the moon. This is fun for Moon and Gemini people, beginning with traveling, right? They get to travel long distance, which is particularly ruled by the 9th house, right? And what they do is they learn when they travel. So they're not only, communicating, this is where they advance and learn new things to talk about through the way they meet and greet with new people long distance. They also get to be mentored in this aspect. Like whoever they come into contact when the moon is in the 9th house, they actually pay attention to these people more than they ever would when the moon is in different houses, because it's that intellectual aspect that they already possess. But Gemini people, Moon and Gemini people are so high strung sometimes that they confide in themselves more than they do other people. However, when the moon is inside of the 9th house, this is when they look for mentorship, which they do too. Like if they meet people and they feel like they're great people, they will admit that. However, when the moon is in the 9th house, there's more of an emphasis put on that whatever mentorship it is, or it's a great relationship that they come across in that aspect, they will remember it and cherish it, and it'll probably be a long-term relationship that can be challenging. And the reason why I say challenging is because Moon and Gemini people like to do so many different things that when it comes to career time, they may struggle to put enough emphasis in each thing that they're doing. It would behoove them to get into industries that correlate with one another. So when they are advertised or when they are distributed, it has more of an impact because they're related. Now, if they take on too many projects in this area, then people will be confused, their audience will be confused, their consumer base will be confused because they will not understand what it is they truly want because they cannot sit still in that immediate area. This position will largely depend on what the ascendant is, because that is where their creativity is going to lie. That's where a lot of their perspective is going to come from. Moon and Gemini people also become aware that in order to get recognition for whatever it is that they choose to do, they have to feel confident in it, and they are going to have to be, they're kind of like perfectionists when it comes to the 10th house. They want to make sure that they're great at whatever it is that they're doing. So sometimes, depending upon their sun sign, this may be a challenge as well, because they might not have the confidence to exert probably like maybe a game face in that aspect. They feel home here. It's not exactly like the 3rd house communication wise. However, this is where they show the maturity and how far along their network, so the people that they did shake hands with, how they have advanced and how they had helped bring things into fruition. So this is a place where Moon and Gemini people actually marvel. They may celebrate in these places. They may actually appear, despite whatever their sun sign is or whatever their ascendant is, they may actually appear in places in these group settings to, show that they are a part of those networks and, highlight that. When the moon is inside of the 11th house, they understand that it's one thing to, take a risk and say, I believe in this person, I believe in their ideas and their goals, and I'm going to contribute to whatever it is that they're doing, and actually sticking it out with that person when they go through their adversities and face their trials and tribulations. So this is where Moon and Gemini people remember those people the most and say, yeah, these are the winners. When Moon and Gemini people get inside of the 12th, when the moon gets inside of the 12th house, pay attention, Moon and Gemini people, because this is where you get to see what worked and what did not work, because your curiosity and your love for variety has you taking on many challenges and many different, tasks and opportunities that you have attempted. And here in the 12th house is where you'll see where you will lose and where you are strong at, because these things have completed well and you're getting ready for distribution. So this is going to be great for you because you get to actually use that perfectionist attribute that you have to see where you really are strong at and where you're not, because some of the times Moon and Gemini people, that high strong energy of Gemini period can make them believe that everything that they do is great, and they will find out when Moon comes inside of the 12th house how they must self-renew and what they have to lose in order to gain when things get ready to be distributed, because we're going back to the 1st house. caged in my cage for days and on now. She raises our refrain, jealous of Mary Jane because my aim is a mouth. No smoke in my face, don't play that in my house. So obey, okay.